Hi, this is Sally Wood for Be Inspired, and today I'm going to show you how to fix a tear in some fabric. Now this is actually a cover for a car, an antique car, and I've just been looking through and I found this enormous tear, but I think he showed me a smaller tear, so I really have my work cut out today by repairing two tears if that's the case. I don't think I could have made it bigger, but I'm here to repair it, so I'll do it anyway. So let's get on with it. Now, because these are tears that are in a straight line and not wide, all I need is two strips of fabric that are 2.5 inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this one at 5, fold it in half, and that gives me my 2.5 inches for repair. And I've already cut this piece out across the top and folded it, and that would be perfect. I'm just going to cut this all the way across this piece of fabric, and then it will give me a nice long piece to fix that long tear. No idea where that came from. Maybe the gentleman didn't know he had it on there. But I'll call him in a minute and explain. I need this repair to be even. This is the straight tear, this is the fabric. There's two pieces of fabric here like that, and now cotton is quite a sturdy fabric. It's just the way it's woven is different to here, and this is actually a lot thicker. That's why I'm putting 2 layers on, but I want it to be even. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a pin along this fold through both sides like that, and then again a little bit further up. I only need 2 on this because it's only a short piece. There's my second pin. So I've slotted the fabric underneath. I've got 1 pin on this end, which goes up to about there, and the other on this end, and the fabric goes to here. So it's actually a couple of inches either side. All I'm going to do now is I'm going to remove this pin, and I'm going to put it across the bottom like that. Spread that out, make sure it's nice and smooth underneath, and I'm going to do the same with this pin. I'm just going to take that pin out and put it acrossways here. I'm going to use dressmaking pins because they're thinner. The only thing that's distorting it is this seam here. This seam is either shaped, I think it might be a shaped seam, but it also pulls the fabric together. You can see it's slightly rippled along here, which is where it's pulled in. So I am going to very carefully pull this fabric out like that. And you can see that when I do that, it wrinkles up here, which is fine. I'm going to fold that piece under just a little bit like that so there's no raw edge, and I'm going to put a dressmaking pin along there like that, and I'm going to do the same again and fold that up there. It can't be more than about 1/4 inch seam allowance because I don't want to lose too much. I've got to keep the integrity of this. Pop that there, and then do the same. Quilting pins would work as well because they're usually quite fine. Now the end pins might need to move, but I'll have a look in a minute. Hopefully that's going in relatively straight, and then again towards the top. I'm only going to do one side at a time, and I'm pulling the top against the bottom. I want the top to be tight and the bottom can be a little bit loose. That's really not a problem. Now I'm not going to square it off. I'm just going to let it run into that corner, so underneath it's coming round at an arc. That's okay. Might make it easier. We'll find out in a minute. I've just folded this side, and I've made an allowance because I've got about 1/4 inch turning on both sides. Down here, coming out at an angle like I did here, rounded it slightly and pulled it out. Because this comes out slightly more, I'm just giving it a little bit more room. Put that loose thread underneath like that, and that's actually hidden quite well. I'll be overstitching it, so it won't matter if it's a little bit on the edge, but it will save it from splitting this way, which is what it was trying to do. This is actually a sign to him that he really needs to get a new cover for the car because it will split. Well, we've seen it, it's already split somewhere else. Now if I pull that, it looks like it fits. If I pull this and it rucks here, I'm not going to take this further over. It's just not worth it. He needs more space, not less space. I'm going to put this one on one side and see if I can actually turn it around to do it the other way. I'm leaving the walking foot on. I'm going to just pick the foot up, lift the needle up as well, push all of that fabric underneath because I've got to maneuver it into the center of here. This is the only thing about doing large projects for people. You sometimes have to be a little bit creative in what you do, and that's fine. I'm going to start a little way back from here, like that. And let's have a look. Make sure the base is supported. Now, usually I do a longer stitch, so I'm going to put it on at number 2, and I will start. Now, usually it does a couple of stitches on the outside first, so let's do those first. Okay, I think I know where I want it to go. Take out my first pin and guide it through. Now, it should be both sides of there. And as I get to the next one, pull that one out. Just make sure everything's going through evenly. And when I say evenly, you have to pull the second side back as well. Now this seems to pull out, so I'm going to just put my fingers there. And don't hurry something like this. And that's where it's going wider because of that. So let's make sure that thread is right under there. Nearly at the end. Now I'm going to just take my pin and roll that fabric under a little bit better than it was, so that there's no raw edges until I get to the top. I'm going to put my foot down because it's pulling on this pin, so I'm going to remove this pin on the other side. It won't matter too much. Those threads need to go back the other way. Pop it down and carry on going. There we go. And I'm going to finish there and see if I can turn it round and go back the other way. Wasn't my plan, but I think it'll look better. Leave the needle down, foot up, and carefully turn it. And I say carefully turn it because I don't want to catch anything as I go. I just want it all to go into place nice and easily. I have a bit of a problem. The stitch is on the inside because it's just on the inside of here, or the outside of here, I should say, because this is the inside, that's the outside. So what I want to do is I'm going to lift the needle up like that, and it's popped over. The needle is here to come down on the other side. I'm going to drop that needle down like that. I'm going to move the fabric over so that the needle comes down exactly where I want it, because it's doing the inside zigzag. I think I've got everything where I want it. So all I'm going to do is start sewing, and I'm going to just follow this down like I did a short while ago. Only difference is I've got the pins facing the other way. So as I get to that one, I'll remove it, reline this because it seems to be a little bit out of kilter. Carry on going, and I'll do that till I get to the other end. Now, just like before, I'm coming in, so I've got this rounded here. Let's get that in, and I'm just going to go over those stitches. It doesn't reverse very well with this stitch, so I'm going to just put it on a plain stitch. Then I'm just going to reverse over just to hold it in place, forward and back. Should be perfect. This is what the back side of that repair looks like. I've got all of that going down and all the way back. Comes in a little bit there, but I don't think that's going to be much of a problem. Again, I'm going to put all of this underneath here somehow. I say somehow because this is not the easiest thing to be working on. I don't need to go up that far, so I'm just going to bring that down and cut it across like that. Fold that under like that. I'm going to keep it as even as I possibly can as I go down. And I'm going to try to do it in as straight a line as possible too. I will do it on that zigzag, and the reason is it just keeps everything nice and tight and stops edges from fraying out. I actually will make the stitch width a little bit narrower. I don't think I'd need it quite that wide, but I do need to lengthen it. I'm just going to fold all those rough edges underneath like that and stitch down. Make sure that this is flat and doesn't pucker, and just ease your way along. I mean, I've got it as straight as I can. Nobody's really going to see it. I better look through here and see if there's any other tears that are going to be making their presence known before I finish this. I've cut the bottom off here, made it shorter. I'm going to fold that under like that so that I get the hem on here for the bottom. Probably going to have to use a pin to hold everything. It's not the best fold. All I got to do is get to the end of that piece. Now, it's on the edge here, leave the needle down, lift the foot, and very, very carefully twist it around that point. And I'm going to say very carefully because this fabric is quite fragile and I don't want to have another tear before I finish this off. So there's that one. Now the advantage of this is the needle is on the outside edge of there. All I'm going to do is fold that under like that. Make sure those loose threads are underneath. Pop the foot down and just carry on across. Now as I come towards this side here, I'm going to do exactly the same. I'm going to just fold it under a little bit like that and start folding it this way. Again, I'm going to need my pin to stabilize everything where I want it. These are so fiddly. I've just got to make sure that that last stitch is on the outside edge. And there it is again, outside edge. Lift the foot, very carefully rotate it, not pulling on anything if you can help it. Twist everything into position, flatten out the fabric so it goes in straight, fold all of that under. When you're happy with everything, just drop the foot like that and then start sewing until I get to the top end, and then I'll do the same. I started here and went down and I'm almost finished. So I'm just going to fold this one over like I did at the other end and put a little bit of a bigger one on because it's a little bit more involved. Pull those threads out. Either tuck the threads underneath or pull them out if you can. Make sure that everything runs even. Sew to the end. Put the stitch in on the end there. Turn this round as carefully as I can because it's right at the top now. I'm going to just see if I can get this corner in all in one go. So all those loose ends are underneath. That's nice and square on. Pop that down and sew to the end, and that's on the outside edge, and turn it just to finish up. Oops a daisy. Now I'm going to sew on down here by about an inch. Put the inside stitch onto the white. Always lift it up when you're changing from a straight to a zigzag or vice versa. I'm going to put it on a straight stitch and reverse and forward and finish. That's one of these tears sorted out. Now I've got to work on the other ones. This is what the tear looks like on the outside. I think that looks quite nice and neat. And then, as you saw on the inside, everything's hidden in there. There's no edges that are going to catch. It's nice and smooth. Fold that in half like that, and then again like that. And I'm going to put pins all the way along the center here. The reason is it's a long tear and it needs to be centered as well as I can make it on here. So I'm just going to do pins every few inches so that when I put the fabric behind, it just means that the hem will be in a straight line, seeing as the tear is in a straight line. Here is my length. There's the middle pinned into place. I'm going to probably sew from the bottom up. It would be the easiest. I need that to be at least an inch over the top. I'm going to run this tear down that center line like that. And again, I'm going to fold that back. I'm actually going to leave the pins in because I need to make sure that I have the other side equal. If it was a short tear, I wouldn't worry too much, but it is a long tear and things move more if it's longer. So there's that one. Here's this one. Fold that one back and pin. And then on down. Now this actually comes in slightly, so when I put this one in, I'm going to bring this a little bit further over for the next one down. I'll pin that bottom one in first, and then this one here. And then on down to the next one. It's like playing dot to dot really. Just smooth the top one against the bottom one so that it pulls into place, and then on down. Any loose ends here, just pop that in, smooth it down. I can feel with my fingers where the side of this fabric is, so I've got plenty of room to fold it over later. Down at the bottom here it's going to be a bit awkward because there's a bit of felt behind here to hold this plastic so that if you pull on here it doesn't pull everything out. I'm going to pull this over like that, but I'll have to see how it goes. Now I'm going to start at the top again, fold that one back and pin that into place. I have to pin it facing the opposite way to the way I'm coming down, only so that I can twist at the top and come down the other way. I'm going to use this as my center mark and allow for that to go wider. I can use that as my pin going the other way. Pop that there, fold that in. I'm going to pull that up, I think, like that, and pin that in. Basically, I'm just pinning both sides all the way down, but I start at one end, work down, and then start back up at the top, and then work on down for the second side. Then I know that if it twists at the bottom, I've done something wrong. Make sure that I've got enough space on there. I can feel the outside of the fabric here, so that's good. This is at the base, so I'm going to just cut that a little bit further back like that. And then I can fold that down, and I'm going to tuck it in behind here. So it might take me a little minute to get that flat and in place. Such a bind having to do it this way. So I can see where the stitching is here, and I'm just going to fold all of that back just a little way like that, and then hopefully that will tuck in like that. I've got to shorten it just a wee bit more until it fits really well behind there. I think that will work. Then I'm going to take my pin. I'm trying to make it as neat as I can, so I'm going to push some threads that way and then others that way, and hopefully I might be able to fold that over the top of some and under the rest. Okay, I think that will do it. Pushing that into the corner there, and I'm going to start sewing here. Now I'm a little bit cautious because I'm having to sew through that. I'm going to do a forward and back. So now I'm going to do my lovely zigzag that I absolutely adore, and I'm just going to very carefully push any threads into that one side and start sewing. I'm going to remove the pins as I go. I'm not going to pull, I'm just going to let it follow that seam up, because I think I'm going to find that as I go up, this might have been pushed too far down on there. See, it's wrinkling here, but I'll get to that point and then I'll adjust it. There, that's actually kind of straightened that out a bit, and I'll just carry on going. I'm just coming into this top corner, make sure that all of those raw edges are underneath, and I'm just going to finish up here. Push that down so it goes all the way up, and then on to there. Somebody is being naughty. Then I'm going to leave the foot down and pull this right around. Oh my gosh, this is so big. I don't even think I've seen all of it yet, but I found another tear. So it's really just as well I'm looking at this. Very carefully try to push all of this fabric all the way through with the pins and everything. I really don't like doing it this way, but oh no, really? How stupid am I? Okay, so I didn't put needle down. I'm going to put it down now. Hopefully I didn't do anything too daft. Oh, there we are. Some of this will pull through. I actually don't have to have all of it pulled through, because as I stitch the other side over, it will be going the other direction. It's not very clear, but basically all I'm going to do is fold that fabric back underneath like that. I think I'm in the right place. I'm going to pop that down and then just come down the other side and just ease my way down as I go back down to the bottom. I'm going to just roll this into place as I go on down, trying to keep everything flat and square on. Straighten that out to there. I'm coming into the bottom part here. I've pushed all those loose ends into there, so it should be easy to hide, and I'm just going to finish up. Now there's not very much I can do about this. This is going into where the felt was, so I'm just going to do the best I can. Now let's have a look. I think if I do one more stitch there, and then I can just go across the bottom there and hold everything in place. And it doesn't do a reverse, so I'm going to just do that and put it up and then just reverse along and then forward, and that should hold everything in place. There we go, nicely done. Now I'm going to work from the base there all the way up and then change it to, because I've just done a forward and reverse on straight, and I'm just going to change it back to the stitch I've just been using, and I'll go up and around the top. Now, something I notice as I come up here is all of these threads that had come in from the bottom, so I'm going to cut all of those back, but not my stitching. I hadn't realised that that's what had happened. Now that I'm going to just tuck underneath there so it's safe, and then I'll tidy up this mess when I've finished. This is one on the seam and it really hasn't opened very much, so I'm able to put this down on top from the back side, and I'll put the back side in first and then the front. There's that, and I'll sew down across and then I'll go back up this way. I'm going to just pull the piece out so it's nice and square on, and then put this pin facing me, and again I'm just going to sew that along. Remove the pin because that was holding it. Always try to make sure loose ends are under it. It always looks nicer. Not that anybody's really going to see this, I don't think. Here's the side and then on round. This is a really small piece and most of it is in the hem here, and I have chosen to do it on a number 29, which is an interesting stitch. It might take a while, so I'm just going to see if I can get that to go equal sides over that. It's going backwards and forwards, so hopefully it's done what I want it to do. And we'll pull that out and see what it's done. Oh yeah, it's actually sealed all of it, both sides, so I'm quite pleased with that. Thank you for joining me on this project. It was a bit more involved than I initially thought. I would like to think that you gained some information on this. Projects like this don't come along very often, but sometimes there's a tear in something you just need to fix it so that it will take you into next year or whenever you've got the money to replace it. So remember, to mend something just prolongs its life. If you want to see more from me, please subscribe, hit the bell button, and a few thumbs up would be absolutely excellent. I can see how I'm doing. And in the meantime, take care. See you later. Ciao.